I'm going to start with the drawer boxes, and I've got a piece of vintage 2x4 here that I already cut a piece off of, and it's fairly straight, but I want to flatten it a little bit more. So I've got my hand plane. I'm just going to take the very small twist that it has out of it before I cut it into strips on the table saw. Now the strips I'm cutting are about 3/8 of an inch thick. After I get those cut out, I'll run them through the planer to smooth both sides. And I'm looking for a final thickness of around 1/4 inch, although it's not critical that it be exactly that. The concept here is to cut more material than I actually need so I can be selective with the wood. As you can see, there are a few knots in this, and I'll need to be able to cut those out. It took a total of 4 passes through the planer to get them all to a even and consistent thickness, and that's just a little bit more than 1/4 inch, and like I say, that really doesn't matter. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to rip them down to the final size. These are fairly straight, but I'll straighten them up a bit more by cutting a little bit off each edge. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut a very shallow rabbet in the edge for the plywood drawer bottoms. Now that I've got all the stock prepared, I can cut it to length. I'm going to cut out the 14-inch pieces first so that I can be more selective. I've got limited areas here where there are no knots, so I want to try to get the longer pieces out of there first and then get the shorter pieces out of what's left over. I'm going to use my mini table saw sled to do that, and I've got a stop block set up against my fence to space it away so I can safely make the cut. I'll just butt the end up against that and then run it through the saw, and that way there's no chance of it binding. I'm going to cut all my 14-inch pieces first so that I only have to change my fence setup once, and then I'll cut my 9 1/4 inch ones after that. Okay, we're up to everybody's favorite part of the program, and that's cutting the box joints, because, you know, box joints are cool. I have set the blade to the approximate height here, but I can't afford to have this wrong. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut a test sample. I've already got my parts, the 6 side parts in the jig here already, but that's all right. I can just move it over so that I can cut a sample here. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to hold that in place, run it through the saw, and then check that with a scrap piece to adjust the depth so that it's perfect. Okay, I've got it dialed in exactly, and I'm ready to start making my box joints. I've got the side pieces in the jig right now. I've got a scrap piece put in there as a backer to prevent chip out, and I'm going to space these so that the first finger is 1/8 of an inch down from the top. And to do that, I just moved the carriage over 1/8 of an inch. Okay, I've got all the side pieces cut. Now I've switched it over to cut the fronts and backs. And if you noticed, I've added a piece of plywood here. I had a little bit of a problem with parts moving on the first set. I guess I didn't have it clamped tight enough, mainly because I don't want to dent in this wood too much. Normally it's best to get 2 clamps on your parts, but these are not very wide, so that's very difficult. So I've added the plywood in to help support it and keep it from shifting. It's time for the big glue up. What I did before I even got started with that was I did a dry fit and measured the bottom panels and then cut those out. And then after that, I sanded what will be the inside of all the drawer parts. That's the bottom, the sides, and the front and the back. And now I'm ready to put it together. I'm going to be doing this glue up with construction adhesive, polyurethane construction adhesive, because it gives me lots of time to get it done. And these are difficult to do enough as it is without having to battle with the glue. So, and this will be strong enough. First place I'm going to put glue is in the rabbet that joins the bottom panel in. I'm just going to put a very small amount, very thin layer in here, because that is going to be more than strong enough anyway. This is a 1/2 inch bottom and a 1/4 inch side, so no problem there. And then the next thing I need to do is get glue on the box joints themselves. I'm going to do that mainly from the inside here. Spread it on each end, and then I'll be able to put the joints together, working the glue in without the bottom first to start with. And then when I'm happy that the glue is spread well enough inside those joints, I'll put it together with the bottom. Okay, with the thing flipped over, I can clamp the bottom. These don't need much in the way of clamps, so I'm just going to use tape and hold the pieces together with that. I really don't have a good clamping solution for box joints. Maybe I'll work on something. I was thinking strap clamp, but strap clamps are not ideal either. Masking tape will do the job though. Okay, that looks pretty good. I've just been rubbing the glue into the joints here to fill up any gaps that are there. And I do have gaps because of the mistake I made, but it's in just one spot, so not a big deal. And now I'm going to set this aside to dry and put together the other two. And then tomorrow I'll be able to make the drawer fronts for this.